And we are back with another episode of Shift Happens. And I am super, super excited to be joined today by Joey Albertson from Bookflow or the Profitability Project. So,
Yes.
Joey, it is awesome to have you join.
Thanks for having me. We've been friends forever, so this is like different, but
It is
I feel
different.
like I could chat forever, so it'll
Well,
be
and I
fun.
know, and then you get the recording going, and it's like we literally hopped out of a Google meeting and into the recording, and it instantly changes the vibe every time I
Totally.
hit record. But just so people, obviously I've known you for a number of years, and we talk about kind of the impact that you've made for Sonic CX and how you help contribute to our business. But for people that inside of my network that don't know you, do you just want to give a brief introduction of yourself to everybody?
Yeah, sure. I will start by saying if I have made any impact at Sonic, like 100x that's the impact Justin Jones has had on my career. So I am taking zero credit because you got me my first big girl client that really gave me the confidence to quit my day job and start Bookflow, which is now the Profitability Project. So I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Justin Jones. And you are a great family friend. You know my parents really well. So it's just so fun to get to work with you. Um, yeah, my background is in finance. Started my career in finance at 21 when I was living in the middle of nowhere, Washington, and pregnant with my first baby. And it was just kind of happenstance, but then I fell in love with it and worked at a company there in Washington for about 7 years as their director of finance. And then moved back to Utah during COVID, worked for a tech company with their finance team. And in doing that at the same time, started getting a lot of small business owners reaching out to me, just asking me for help with their finances. You know, so many business owners are incredibly smart and so talented at what they do, and finance has just never crossed their desk. That's never been something been asked to do. And so they would reach out to me with, small questions, or they'd ask me to do their bookkeeping, or can you take a look at this? And pretty soon, you know, like 6 months after moving back to Utah, I think I had like four clients, quote unquote, that I was kind of helping on the side. And I went on maternity leave with my then third baby. Um, and that's probably about the time that you would have called me and said, "Hey, I'm working at a company, and I think you should come in and just take a
Help,
look and
come help.
see if there's something you can do." And that ended up being a really awesome project for us and allowed me to quit my day job and really go all in on being a business owner myself, which I think has earned me a lot of empathy for my clients. We get to be business owners side by side. And since then, I've built the team. There's 7 of us now. We do everything from bookkeeping to payroll to billing to collections to taxes. And our really sweet spot, our bread and butter, is helping business owners become profitable and actually pay themselves for all this hard work, which is somehow way harder than it sounds. So,
It
yeah.
is incredibly hard. I remember, and I want to talk about the book that you had me read and kind of hop into that. But there was that time where we had a call, and I said, Joey, like, and I forget the wording. I know you know which call I'm referencing, where it was like, hey, like I have no idea of the money that's within the account, like how to deploy this, or like it's all a number. And so we were kind of operating from like this one big plate. And then that introduced, Profit First, where you had recommended, hey, you need to read this book.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like it gave immense amount of clarity, right? Like, and I've even like, I'm so excited about it. Yesterday I moved money, or the day before yesterday, and you text me and you're like, hey bro, you're still in my thunder, like,
Yeah. Let me
uh,
do my job.
yeah, yeah. And I tried to, like, I was looking at it because I think what's important for business owners, at least for me, in the conversations we've had, was I don't have to be a professional at finances, but I should have fluency in finances.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe I got that from this book when I read it, but I liked that term. It stuck with me. Like, hey, you don't have to be a pro, but have fluency so you understand what's happening and why. But like QuickBooks is about as foreign to me as I'd like to say I'm really good at it, but if I'm honest, it's not my strong suit. And so that's where it's been great to lean on the Profitability Project and the work that you guys do. You know, even with Becca, who's one of your team members, like just solid group. But in this, how did you find this book, and what made you decide from? Because I know you run this same methodology inside your business. I'm living and understanding it in real time. I think we made the switch a month ago, maybe three
Yeah, I think
weeks.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I looked like a crazy person when I walked into the bank, and I'm like, "Hey, I need all of these accounts," uh, and they looked at me like, "What? Okay," like kind of like I
Yeah.
felt like I had to explain myself to them just because I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hey, yeah," but how did you discover it, and in discovering it, like, yeah,
Yeah.
what's
Gosh, I don't remember the first time I read Profit First. I am a big reader. I read a lot of business books. And if it has to do with money, chances are it's come across my desk. Um, or I'm at least familiar with it. But I do remember we haven't always run our business on Profit First. In fact, I don't think we even made that change ourselves till last year. But I've had clients who have run it and I've watched them. There's my answer is twofold. The first is my love for finance came from when I got married. I was given the Dave Ramsey book and I read it because I'm a reader and I became a Dave Ramsey freak. And I have since become a normal Dave Ramsey person where I found the happy medium. Okay, so I need you to know I'm no longer a Dave Ramsey freak, but for a long time I was. And the envelope system was my life. Like, I loved the envelope system. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit of a control freak. I love money. I like, have a huge research project happening right now behind the psychology and the emotion behind money. Like, I just have this relationship with money. So Dave Ramsey just was, whatever, scratching that itch for me. So then when I got introduced to Profit First, it felt like a natural fit because I'm like, this is at its very core very similar to like an envelope system. So if you don't know what Profit First is, it is basically an envelope system for the business. I'm going to talk about why it's not just that a little bit later, but at its core, you can kind of compare them together. So I was like, okay, this is cool. I get the logic here. I can see why this would be beneficial. But it didn't really turn on for me until I watched one of my very favorite clients and truly like such a mentor to me. She owns a business that's doing multiple millions, and she is just everything I want to be. And she has run her business on Profit First even before we got involved with her. And I watched the financial success that she had despite the storms of entrepreneurship. And it just, the lights went on for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what everybody needs. And Justin, you'll remember that the project we worked on together, one of the biggest pain points was trying to help the business owner. And now I do this all the time, multiple business owners who are very fluent in their profit and loss become fluent with what that translates to in cash. And that is so hard for people. Even people that are very good and understand their financial reports can sometimes have a hard time being like, okay, but what does that mean for cash? Cash is king. Cash is the most important. The P&L, they look at me, they're like, yeah, but what's happening in my bank account? And Profit First really marries those two things together. When you're profitable on paper, there is cash in the bank. And when I watched this business owner that's been such a mentor to me be able to do that and really be in the driver's seat of where her cash was going, then I became a Profit First freak. And now I recommend it to literally all of my clients. And my favorite part about it is when I talk to business owners, and you're like the poster child for this. I wish I would have recorded the call we got on. You were like, I just don't know what money is mine. And I'm always finding that I'm anxious, and I'm paraphrasing, maybe you'll say it better than me, but
No, no, no. It was
you're like,
good.
I'm always anxious about I'm taking too much, I'm spending too much, I don't know what I can pay myself. There's cash in the bank. I know the business at its core is healthy, but like, the timing of bills going out and payroll is a huge one for you guys. Like, I just don't know how to be safe and also pay myself. And I was like, that is an advertisement for Profit First. If that is how you feel, Profit First is for you, because this solves that anxiety. It just gets you in a place where you know for sure that the money in this account is there for taking. Payroll's still going to be covered, the bills are still going to be paid, and you don't even have to think about it. And also, you get paid what you deserve as an owner, which is critical to continuing to be an owner and not
Yeah.
burning out. We're motivated by money. So,
I mean, it's not, we are motivated by money. And I think I even, because, and where my curiosity started, and you nailed exactly what I said, it was, we did, I think it was January 2nd, we were able to do our first like draw, right?
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, I don't think you had said like, how did you come up with that number? And I was like, I don't know, it just felt right. Like luckily, I don't think we didn't do anything that was irreparable or anything. Like we were
yeah,
still in
yeah,
a
yeah.
good position, but it was like I knew I had a serious problem there when I'm just picking numbers that,
Yeah.
eh, whatever.
Vibes is
Yeah.
a round number, felt
Yeah.
right.
Just,
Like,
yeah. And I immediately after we had taken like paid ourselves for the first time in, I guess what at that point was 6 months. And I think a lot of business owners, and we can all relate on like you're feeding your baby, and it's weird the way you treat money inside your business versus like maybe even your personal account, because it's like you're stealing from this baby almost in your mind of like,
yeah,
I want as much here. And so profit first, I think the analogy I really liked, and there's a story in there, but it talks about like plates. He likens the accounts to plates. And I know like I just like totally stuck out to me where he talks about like we'll eat proportionate to our plate size. And like it's been very impactful. So like profit first, there's like 5 accounts, and I don't want, we don't necessarily need the whole podcast to be about profit first, but it's been for me like so foundational in helping me like alleviate the anxiety that I felt on that call. What we have, you have like a tax hold account, a profit hold account, an operating expense account, a payroll account, and an income account, or
yep, yep,
yeah.
exactly.
Hey,
Yeah. And
points.
yeah, it's my star people, as I said. Um, it's and it's so fun to watch, right? Like the transformation really with just turning this on. Like you said, it's been a matter of a couple of weeks. You've turned this on, and from where you were then to where you are now, not you're paying yourself consistently. You know how much to pay yourself. We're not basing our financial decision on vibes, although I love the vibes. We're actually using data, which is my love language. And you're sleeping at night. I mean, my goal as a fractional CFO and as a business owner when I work with my clients is to help them sleep at night. Like at my core, that is what we're doing. And in order to do that, there's a couple things that need to happen. We need to make them profitable, which is why we're called the Profitability Project. Is my number one goal is to make you a profitable business. And then number two, once you're profitable, okay, now we can pay ourselves. And chances are you will reduce burnout. You'll reduce financial anxiety for sure. When you're profitable, you have more freedom in your decisions. You can grow the business faster because you have, money to spend and reinvest back in the business. All kinds of magic starts happening. Again, the core of the Profitability Project and why we changed our name is that's what I want to do. And to see you in just a matter of weeks go from like, I don't know how to pay myself. I don't know what number to do. I don't know how often I can do it. I don't know if I pay myself, then I'm stressed that payroll's not going to be covered. You're not only worried about your family, you're worried about 100 families now as the business owner. That's so relatable. And to see you go from that to like, I'm going on a trip. I know how much I can spend. Like, I know what I can do with my money and when. And you're still like within your first year of business, that's a huge transformation. And that is my favorite part of the job. That is
Yeah,
like
it's been awesome.
just the best thing ever. So, um, now the thing that makes Profit First really interesting, other than it being kind of an envelope system, that I really, want to point out is that as business owners, I think we're taught from our peers or, business school or whatever, that it's revenue minus expenses equals profit. Profit is what's left over. And if their expenses are too high or revenue's too low, sucks to be you. Like you're just not profitable and that's too bad. And this book flips that mindset completely on its head and says that, you know, profit, that revenue minus profit is what you have available for expenses. So it's a totally different way of budgeting kind of around what you're doing. And we've found that if profit is an afterthought, then it's never prioritized. I can't even tell you how many business owners, but I will say and admit fully that I am one of them, that when profit's the last thing to come, it never shows up. Inevitably, you're reinvesting every penny because it's like, I don't know, like you said, it's your baby. You just don't know how to do anything else. And pretty soon you're like, man, I've been at this for 5 years and I am not getting paid what I want to get paid. This is crazy. I've been working way too hard. And business owners are really good at paying everybody else first because, again, that's what we're taught to do. Vendors, payroll, subscription, software, whatever it is, like there's so many things that we can pay for. And then we just cross our fingers and hope that there's money at the end of it or that it's grown big enough that we'll get paid out. And it creates a whole lot of stress and it creates a whole lot of shame. And it really creates this cash roller coaster that's completely unpredictable, which makes it hard to do my job. And so we found, again, that profit isn't really a math equation, that it's revenue minus expenses. It's a habit and it's a behavior that has to be changed and prioritized because the rest will flow. So it's a really cool system that, yes, matches your P&L to cash and helps you predict cash and helps you save and do all of those things. But really, it's a mindset shift as a business owner so that you can get paid for all your hard work too. And make sure you make payroll and make sure the subscriptions are still there, and all of those things.
Well, it absolutely works. And I'll even tell you, and you can see, like, even in the profit account, like it's just nice that it's there, but it doesn't, like, I'm like, I even struggle to still take it. And I
Yeah.
think, like,
Yeah.
like I think it,
Yeah.
but at, like, mentally, because it is. I mean, even as a business owner, right? And you and I have had some conversations where you've given me some advice because you've been Profitability Project's been in business longer than Sonic CX. And I think it's kind of like this lonely journey in the founding world of, like, there's just not a lot to lean on to. So having resources like yourself, because I think you're in a very unique position where you get to see all the bipolarness of entrepreneurship across the spectrum. Like,
Yeah.
I know, like, and this is, I think, I'm a big fan of it because it feels like, I'm still bipolar, I like to say, as a business owner. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that is, like, some days you think you've got it all figured out. The next day you're like, oh my gosh, this is just like it's
Who
the
do I think
world's
I
on
am?
fire.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. But this
Yeah.
is not an area that I actually was able to alleviate the stress through your help of, like, hey, and everything just goes right into its envelope, its plate, like the second, and it's been fun. So I can't thank you enough for the guidance. It is actually, for a finance book, not a bad read. Yeah. So
As dry as they are, yeah.
yeah.
It is written for entrepreneurs. It's not written for finance professionals. Um, so he did a good job of, trying to make it palatable,
Relatable,
I
I guess. Yeah.
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he shared a personal story where he, went broke.
Yeah.
Um, and, like, hey, what did I learn? And I think he got it from an infomercial about plates or something, if I remember right. But I was like, what a cool, like, relatable. It was talking about how people have gained weight as a result of plate sizes increasing, if I recall correctly. And he was like, yeah, we need to get smaller plates. And, like, so my brain, these accounts are like plates or envelopes, but it works. So I highly
It's
recommend it.
a psychology. And again, I could spend hours talking about the weird emotions that come up with money. Um, the reason I like finance is because 1 plus 1 equals 2 every single time. I think we've talked about this because like you are so good at what you do in sales and marketing, and that to me is as foreign as finances to you. Like we make a good pair in that way because we just think so differently. And I love the rules. I love when, I can know objectively that it's going to work out and tie out and reconcile all those things. That's like the best for me. But what I've found the longer I do this is that, you know, finance, finance is math at the end of it. It is numbers, but it is so much more than that for business owners. It is so emotional. And there's so much tied to it. And again, there's a million reasons for that. I have books upon books that I can recommend. Like I said, I'm doing a whole bunch of research on it because I just find it so interesting. But at the end of the day, our bipolarness as business owners, by the way, if you aren't experiencing that as a business owner, like you must have endless capital because I feel that way every day. It's like one day I'm like, I'm the coolest. And the next day I'm like, who do I think I am? Like, I don't, it's just crazy. It's what we do is crazy. But um, all of that emotion is so tied to money. So even your marketing decisions that you're making, or when your marketing is going really well, that somehow in a roundabout way can come back and be tied to finance. So any anxiety that you're feeling across the business really can be traced back to your finances. And so when we can reduce the anxiety and reduce the stress on the financial side, truly magic starts happening across the board in every aspect of the business, which is so fun to watch. I mean, it's just awesome to be able to make more decisions calmly as a business owner and have the data to back those decisions. It reduces the emotional roller coaster and the cash roller coaster so much that it just makes doing business more fun. I mean, when you're not on the constant huge highs and huge lows, I think entrepreneurship will always have a little bit of that. But when you can kind of bring it in, rein it in a little bit, it's way more fun and the wins are way more powerful because you're winning and you're winning more often and there's money in the bank and all of that stress and emotion that comes with each of those dollars just gets reduced just a little bit. So um I just think it's such a great system for that piece of what we do. Like, yeah, it helps on the technical side for sure, but the transformation is like my passion. Like that's what
I
gets me
don't think you and I meet with like your team, I think weekly, but like I don't think I've told you just like even I mean it's been very, very impactful for me. Like I don't, and the with it it was such a big concern. But like now I'm operating like in my mind. So like there's certain decisions we want to make or maybe we should make. And I can really do the math very quickly because of the envelope system. Like, hey, making this adjustment, I can kind of just see, and we're still relatively new. I'm really excited to kind of see, like we don't have like all the historical data that we can pull from, like, and, um, but as we get that, it's going to just be more and more interesting to kind of see this thing evolve. But I can see that, and what's talked about, like, hey, if I make that higher, well, that is coming out of profit,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
and do you want to make that sacrifice, and we're new enough, but ideally it gets to this place of, it's just multiplies. But it's been really impactful. Like I was on a team call the other day and I've told my team that I've read this and that they were asking me like, hey, we need XYZ, like all teams do. And I said, it doesn't fit our model.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
put this book up and I got one of the other team members that's running our team to read it as well on Audible. But I
I
was
should
like,
get a commission off this. What am I
you,
doing?
I
Yeah,
know, I know. But when I working with you, kind of pivoting from profit first to kind of just the core of, like I think you guys obviously touch a lot and you help a lot of businesses. Um, in kind of all of your experience, what is like fatal flaws that you see? Or, what are the kind of the big like standouts when somebody comes to you, or like just in your experience for first time founders, even long term founders, what are the pitfalls that you find?
Man, I would say all of the things that are coming to mind are related to that lack of financial fluency, like you said. I have no desire to teach founders accounting, 202. You don't need to know. It's going to be a waste of both of our brain cells. And even if I tried, most founders would start looking at me like, they'd lose all the spark in their eyes. So I try to avoid going into the technicalities of every tax law there ever was, right? But I am very passionate about financial fluency and the education there for owners. You need to know enough. And I would say the same thing about sales and marketing and whatever. When you're wearing all the hats, you need to know enough. And even when you get to start outsourcing, like you've hired our team, I still want to know enough to know that I'm doing a good job and to hold me accountable. If you had hired a marketing team and didn't know how to know if they were doing a good job, you're dumping money down the toilet. So um, you know, having just enough financial fluency saves so much heartache. And again, that could be you understand your P&L, but you don't understand what that means for the cash in the bank. You understand that you're going to owe taxes, but you don't know what triggers those things. You don't have a strategy. You're not proactively thinking about, you know, um, where you can save taxes or what you should be doing throughout the year. You're mostly just filing when April rolls around. Um, and the number one thing I would say is business owners that aren't watching closely um, fail all the time. And what I mean by that is I've worked with founder upon founder upon founder who was like, yeah, my bookkeeper sends me a P&L and it shows profit. That's not good enough anymore. Unfortunately, that's just not going to do what you need it to do. You need to know for a fact that those numbers are accurate. And if you don't know that, drill your finance team until you know that. They should match across the board. They should not change after a certain point. When the books are closed, they should be closed. If your budget is changing every time you get on a meeting with the finance team and you're not sure why, big red flag. Like, we've got problems. If you're showing profit and you're feeling like you're in a cash crunch all the time, and then you're showing growth and the cash doesn't seem to be resolving itself, big red flag. Like, that to me tells me you're not watching, or you're not aware, or you're not fluent enough with your numbers to really understand them and make decisions based off of them. So, everyone that comes to me and talks to me um, usually has a problem related to that. So our system is kind of education and clarity first. How do you know what your numbers are? How often are we looking at them? How do you know they're accurate? And what decisions do you need to be making based off of these numbers? That's step one. Step two is, okay, now let's systemize this. How are you making sure, are we implementing profit first? How are we making sure there's cash in the bank? How can we reduce and, increase efficiency and reduce admin time for your billing? Do we need to put your clients on prepay? I mean, do you have a collections problem? All of those things are systems. So that's when we get to dive into all the dirt. Now that we've found the problems and the cash leaks, now we get to dive in and make a better system so that it scales and scales quickly. And that as growth is happening, profit is following. And then that's the fun step. Number three is really the fun part, where it's like, okay, now that we're making good money, what are we doing? Let's be intentional about it. One of the traps that I have seen is as you scale, you kind of go through those three steps and you hit this nice profit place. And then you're not using that profit strategically. And then you get kind of back to square one. Now you're growing like crazy, but you're not making any more money. You're spending like crazy on all the softwares and all the people, and headcount is increasing like crazy. And then we have to kind of go back to square one, and that's no fun. So once we get you to the really nice, beautiful place of like cash is in the bank, your margins are good, your systems are set up for scale, you can grow like crazy and do your job of selling, let's stay there and be strategic so that we can just, exponentially grow that. And that is so much fun to see that transformation. So, um, yeah, I guess the short answer is be fluent enough to know what stage your business is at and to be able to hold whoever's in charge of that financial system accountable to make sure that growth aligns with profitability, because the worst thing is when I see businesses grow revenue and tank profitability. It's like, what's the point? You're working way too hard to make less
Yeah.
money. That's horrible. That's awful.
Yeah. Oh, I could relate so much to everything you said, and it totally was a victim of it before you guys got involved. And I'm glad we brought you in as early as we did, just because. And I think you kind of had said like, hey, and I guess in my mind it was more like, hey, I don't want to create a mess that needs to be cleaned up later. Let's just do this right, like
Yeah.
right out the gate, because that was kind of a big fear I had. But what's even more interesting with the systems and things that we've implemented through your team is I've even caught I've got a better eye on like the subscriptions and things. Like I see little transactions that if I was just looking at like that big plate or that one big envelope, they wouldn't I probably wouldn't notice them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
now I'm like, hey, what is this? Like
Totally.
I'm like, hey, let's email them because we don't use that. Like, just little stuff. And we've only been in business for 7 months, and I've got subscriptions that I'm like, you think you need it in a day, so you're like, hey, I'm going to use this cool tool, but like, damn it, I just got billed last week for Canva Pro,
Yeah.
which I was like, I thought I was being slick with it, and I'm like, oh, 7-day free trial. I just needed to do this one thing, forgot to cancel. I'm going to we'll keep it. It's the Canva Teams at this point, but it stood out to me because I'm really very keenly aware. And one thing that you guys do that I really like is you also have like the portal. Like there's obviously QuickBooks, but if there's transactions that aren't consistent and or normal, I get a little trigger from your team that says, "Hey, what is this?" Kind of, right? Like come in and approve this, or at least like explain to the team what it is. Um, it's kind of a nice little touch that you guys have there. So you got your own
Thanks.
little window. Because you're like, hey, we got to categorize this. What is
Yeah.
it? Help us understand. But I don't think we've had any issues on like explaining it, but it's just kind of cool to see because your team's going, hey, these are all very consistent.
Hmm.
This is abnormal from what your original flow. Like, how do we categorize this? And I freaking love it.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
well, and again, it just comes back to like the number one thing I teach to business owners is visibility. We love to ignore our finances because it creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of shame. And so it seems like the number one, solution to that is avoidance. And I have to break that mindset with business owners because I'm like, you will get nowhere if we just pretend that, it doesn't exist and we don't pay attention to it. Cody Sanchez, who I love, she's online. She says that money is like a really cruel mistress. If you pay attention to her, she will treat you so well and you will get everything that you need, and the ROI is great. If you ignore her, she is vengeful and she will come for you and it will not be good.
I
And
love
so you
that.
have to pay attention. You have to give her attention because if you aren't paying attention, she will rule your life. But if you pay attention, you can actually be in the driver's seat and tell your money where it should go rather than the other way around. And it's kind of painful at first. Like I'm not gonna lie. I even had a client one time that was like, this kind of feels like a mammogram. Like it's very vulnerable for whatever reason. She's like, this is just really uncomfortable. And it is. Again, like I don't know why we have all of this emotion tied to it, but it can be uncomfortable. But I'm telling you, getting past that initial uncomfortableness, discomfort is the word I'm looking for there. You can
I
get
like
past
uncomfortableness. That sounds cool.
finance. I speak in math. Okay, it's fine. You can get past the initial discomfort and that initial anxiety. Force yourself to know what's going on that switch alone, I mean, start with 1% change. If you do nothing else, change that 1% and just start paying attention to what's going on. You will be so much more informed. You will be so much more educated. And then if you have to speak to investors, if you have to speak to shareholders, if you have to speak to your team, if you have to make basic financial decisions, you will go into that so much more confident and again, so much more at ease, and make smarter decisions than you would if you just played the avoidance game, which is so common. And that's kind of, that's easy to do, but it will spiral. And then you'll have like gut problems. I don't know. It just seems like it's not good for your health. So
No, I
pay
think I can
attention.
imagine like January is when everybody cares. If you're
Yeah.
like, and like, and I know even I am so guilty of this because January was the exact month that we had decided we were going to implement this strategy because I'm like, man, and I can just imagine like business owners kind of like, hey, everything's good, and then come January, it's like, so what? How did it go? Like, what's
Exactly.
it really like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Time for
Well, and
taxes.
then it's too bad because then they come to me and they're like, it didn't go well. And I'm like, so we can fix the future, but I can't do much about last year, and you mentioned this before, like, you know, I love getting in early, with businesses because I can't even tell you, it's literally at this point, it's once a month that I'm finding business owners who are losing millions, and I mean millions of dollars because they don't have good systems. And I don't say that because I want more business or any of that, although obviously it's not a bad
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
but I get sick. Like my team and I will look at books sometimes and just be heartbroken over these really great people who are working really freaking hard and just doing the very best they can, but because they didn't pay attention to finance. I mean, I had one literally yesterday. We were in there and revenue is great. And he came to me and said, I'm always strapped for cash. I just cannot figure out what I'm doing wrong. So we went in and we're doing a cleanup for him. And it's so simple, but his team was basically creating invoices and then they take a deposit and then they pay after the job is completed the remaining balance. And what they would do is when the deposit came in, they would go into the invoice and basically put in like a negative line item for 50% to bring the invoice down by half, which is all fine and good. I mean, not how I would do it, but like, okay, I see the logic there. But then when that deposit came into the bank, they would match that money to the invoice, which meant that the invoice balance is now zero, but they've only paid half. So for like 3 years, this guy was getting paid half of his billable. He'd made the sell, he had completed the job. Obviously, the customers are happy, because they're finishing and everything, and no one's going after them for the last 50%. So his
oh,
revenue looks great because the invoice is showing the full amount, but there's never cash in the bank because he's never collecting. And I know
he's
that is not the first time I found that.
no.
And this guy is like one of my favorite human beings ever. And to have to get on the phone with him and say, you could have been a millionaire by now, my guy, and now you're gonna have to spend 3 more years doing this because you're ready to retire, but you can't.
Are you
Just
guys
because
going to try to
it's
help get
simple,
some of that back? Hopefully, I'm guessing maybe.
when it's four
Kind of
years
tough.
ago, it's kind of hard to call a customer up and
So,
be like, hey,
yeah, 4 years is like, yeah,
that it's rough. And even longer than that. And I'm like, and it was like one seemingly tiny accounting error that just makes a world of difference. And that is one example of literally thousands that I found. And it keeps me up at night, makes me sick. Like, I just want to go
just
to him
feel
and
their
like hand
pain.
him a check. I can't, but I'm like, oh, you've been working so hard for nothing.
But
For what?
here's how
Like,
I'd frame this though. But I'm like, I would totally frame it as like, hey, I've survived this long doing it this way.
yeah,
Like now it's fun. Like boom, like hey, keep doing what I'm doing. I just doubled my
I
revenue.
basically just doubled
Yeah.
cash.
Yeah.
And my retirement's going to be easier than I thought that it was, for sure.
Yeah.
And I love it because guess what? I just paid for myself 10 times over. And that, like I say to people all the time, my goal is to pay for myself. And that is, I want you to scale revenue. I want you to be on the exact trajectory you would have been whether I'm here or not. But your bank account balance that goes to you as a person, as a business owner, like your personal bank account balance, I want to be so amazing that when my invoice comes through, you're like, check, 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 happy to pay it twice on Tuesdays. Like it's such a no brainer because we've found money, we've saved money, we've helped you grow. And with that growth, like retained your margin. So it's actually hitting your bank account. That's my goal as a CFO, as even our bookkeepers. I'm like, these simple mistakes make business owners millions or break them as a business. They have closed
I
doors for this.
I would even go as far as to say like you definitely fund yourself, and in terms of like costs, and I know you feel sick to your stomach for that client. To me, I'm like I'd wake up the next day with such a sense of purpose, and like because you
Totally.
showed like it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I found a path out. Now that is a kick in the gut to like figure out that like wow all that, but like I'd be like, here we go, like cool,
And
solved
now
it.
it's better.
And so where I would say
It
you do
reminds me,
well.
it reminds me, Justin, of the time when we were working together, not on Sonic, but I had to call you with bad news,
Yep.
actual
Yep.
bad news for the project we were working on. And I was in literal tears. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to say this. I don't even know how to break this to you. Like, this is bad and we've got to fix it. And the initial gut feeling is just that tragedy of like, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, like simple, tiny things make all the difference, which is why I'm passionate about helping teeny tiny businesses that are scaling because I'm like, we can do such good work and prevention is key. Like, this is going to save you millions. But the next day, it totally is that like I am helping business owners feed their families. Like I can make a difference in this business owner retiring at 65 rather than 85 or 45 rather than 65. Like that is someone's life that I can actually make a difference by small simple things that I happen to be smarter than the average Joe on, And that is so fun. And like I said, seeing the transformation, seeing their anxiety go down, seeing their confidence increase because of these tiny systems that we can implement that I didn't even invent, by the way. Like, I didn't write Profit First, but being able to just help implement is like, it's why I'm still on the roller coaster. It's addicting. It's like, it's worth all the highs and lows because it's so cool.
Well, and I think like even yeah, I mean it's the peace of mind. It's the because being I'm a first time founder. I think we've worked together, and I've had like the opportunity to watch businesses operate at a relatively high level. Like
Yeah.
I was in
Yeah.
some, so I flew close to the sun, but never was responsible, like ultimately responsible, or the and like so I in stepping into it. I think what it's just the peace of mind. Like that's so damn important, like just knowing where it sits. And so, I the profitability project definitely gave is a peace of mind project in my and profitability, but at
Yeah.
least we're able to make sense. And I do want to move into just quickly because this is something that I've been really like spend a ton of time reflecting on. I even talked to you about it, but what does the journey of entrepreneurship look like for you in terms of like the emotions, the learning curves, the landmines? Because you understand the financial aspect, but there's a total emotional side to this thing as well. That yeah, 'cause as a founder, you've been in
Yeah.
business. How long is your what? 5 years now?
We will hit 5 years in May, which is crazy.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome. That's so
It's so
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it's really fun. And I mean, just on that, right? Like I have so much emotion tied to this 5 year mark. Um, I my journey is a little unique because I like to joke that I started this by accident. Like I never intended to leave my corporate job. That was not why I did this. Now that I'm in it, I'm like, oh yeah, entrepreneurship's in my blood. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. I can't believe I waited this long. I love it. It is truly like a drug. It's addicting. And also like a drug, it will run your life. It will
Yeah.
dictate everything you do in a day, whether you're at work or not. It dictates who you talk to and all the things, right? So it is crazy what we do. It is crazy, but um, my yeah, it's a constant mental game for sure. I think I joked with you like when we first started talking about this. I'm like, every founder needs therapy. This is just crazy. I mean, I often talk about how money is a mirror for people. It really reflects kind of what's going on inside. Um, being an entrepreneur being an entrepreneur and a parent are the two biggest mirrors that you will face maybe in your life, I think, because they just teach you so much about yourself and what's wrong with you, truly. And work with people and all the things.
What's wrong with
So
you?
it's a roller coaster. I mean, any entrepreneur that is like, this is a breeze, easy, beautiful, and I've never struggled, I'm like, something's wrong because it's just it's crazy. I mean, we started when I started. So my son's 4, so I was pregnant with my third. I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and was pregnant with another one. Again, something's missing up there, but started a business and quit my job, and so now I'm raising 3 kids. I've got 2 in diapers, and I'm fully winging it. Like I know enough to get by. I've learned a few tricks of the trade. I am financially fluent, so I can tell business owners things that maybe they don't know, but never run a business. I don't know the first thing about marketing or sales. People would get on the phone with me, and I'd be like, "Sure, I don't know. I can help you out. Do you need help?" But then to like intentionally grow a business and go out there and find clients like from scratch and then convince them to work with us, that was a huge learning curve, still is. And it's hard not to feel, I don't know where we got this expectation as business owners that we have to be the expert in everything, but it feels like we do. Maybe because all the responsibility is on our shoulders, I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's really hard to look at myself and be like, I'm 5 years into this business. I should be the expert at XYZ. I should be at these, goalposts by now. I have all these expectations and ambitions for myself. And to face the fact that we either have hit some and not others, or we've way exceeded things we never planned on even doing. We added tax, which like 3 years ago, I would have been like, you're crazy. There's no way. Now we're doing taxes for people. Like, it's just so unexpected. And that requires a lot of self-reflection. It requires a lot of growing up. It requires a lot of therapy in my case, talking to people and trying to get over all the weird things that just come with learning about yourself and learning what flaws and strengths you have. But I will say that it has also made me such a better person than I was 5 years ago. It's made me freaking resilient. I feel like I could do anything in so many ways because I have done hard shit. Like, I have done hard stuff and I could do hard stuff again. And I love the fact that whether it's my clients, whether it's my team, I get to work with people that I want to work with, and I actually get to make an impact on their lives. And it's a drug. I don't think I could ever not do that after doing it this time. So, journey is a great word for it because it has ups and downs, and it is really, really hard. And it's also the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Just like parenthood. It's like really
It's so
freaking
well
hard.
said. I honestly think
I love
being
it.
starting a company made me a better parent in some ways. Yeah, in
Yeah,
some
and a
ways,
better
like
spouse, probably. I mean, like, I feel like I understand people better and just have better relationships because I've learned about people.
yeah,
So,
it's weird. Because I'll even be a little bit vulnerable. Because you say you need therapy, right? And I haven't like, and I'm like, I totally do. I use Chat GPT as my therapist sometimes, where I'm like,
great place to start.
right, right with AI, like, and I typed something last night, and I was gonna share it, but I said I'm in this weird place where I feel sad and
Mhm.
like I feel like sad for what was and happy for what is, but also
Yeah,
like it's this you're in a room with feeling lost and found at the same time. Like
yeah, so relatable.
Yeah, and I was like, that maybe is a little too much for the LinkedIn community, but like
No.
I yeah, without context, I was like, they're gonna think like this dude's like having a breakdown, but there's really truth in it because like in stepping into it and but it is it's very lonely, you know, like you know like but you can look back at it for me and the way I perceive it. I look back at kind of the years and I think all the experience it kind of has allowed me to be in a position to understand some things that I wouldn't understand had I not gone through what I went through up and to the point. But also like, man, if I would have started earlier, if I, you know, if I, you kind of like mourn for, you know, that's what, but also like I'm feeling found. And I don't know if I'm just having a midlife crisis. I like just turned 40. So I'm like, I even asked Chat GPT, like, is this a midlife crisis?
That's what that feels like. I'm like, business owners need therapy, Justin.
Yeah, right. I,
Actually,
and
I haven't. No.
I think you need community. Like you definitely need
100%.
community. You need people
Yes.
like you know, you go beyond the financials. Like sometimes we'll catch each other and I'm like unload on you and you're like, "Hey, I felt that way before." You know, you're and then on another note, your dad is somebody I respect and admire like greatly. I mean, the dude but one story that's just so funny that I have to share with you, and I don't know if I ever did, but it's when I met your mother. Uh, your dad always put me in rooms I didn't feel like I belonged in. So I thank him a lot for that. Like in my career, like it's just that confidence level. But and I think as a founder, anybody can relate. It's like, hey, you know, you don't belong here. But one thing, in working with your dad for a number of years, he started to invite me into meetings that I felt like
I
what
should
do
be
you
in.
see in me that I don't see in myself? Like I'm here. And we went to like this really fancy restaurant with like the board of investors and like
Hmm.
everybody. And I sat next to your dad because I was closest to him. And he got up to go to the restroom. And this is when I fell in love with your mom because like the second he leaves, I'm at this table like I don't know anybody. And your mom just slides over and she's like, so give me all the dirt on my husband. What's he like at work?
Okay, but what does she say? More importantly, give us the dirt on Tim
Yeah.
Cap because
Yeah, she just slides over because like Tim's leaving and he's like my security blanket. I'm like,
yes,
oh, I'm in this like I'm intimidated. These are investors.
yes,
Like I don't and your mom's just totally distracted me from all of that by sliding over like now that he's gone, give me all the dirt. And I was just
yeah.
like, so
Well, we
but
like to joke that you're my dad's only friend, so we're so grateful for you. But Justin, I have to tell you that that actually makes me a little bit like emotional because I feel that way about you. And I won't get into it because we don't need crying on LinkedIn. But like that is one of your superpowers too. And I think one of the best privileges of being a business owner, and anybody can do this, right? At the time, my dad didn't own a business. You know, you did this before you owned a business for me, but um, you learn very quickly when you have a community of business owners around you that everybody feels that way in the room. Everybody feels like they don't belong. Everybody feels like the outcast. And if they don't, they're probably a jerk. And they're
yeah,
probably not the person you want to be around anyway.
assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the mentor, right, of the room. My favorite people are the people that feel that way, that genuinely are like so humble enough to be like, man, I really don't belong here either. Or maybe I belong here today, but I remember the first time I was in a board meeting and I was shitting my pants. Like I
Yeah.
did not want to be there. And and we all go through experiences. The only way to go through that experience and to get trained in it or get more comfortable is to just do it, uncomfortable and do it scared. I love doing things scared now. Before it was horrible, and now I'm like, that's the best education I'll ever get. That's also a Justin Jones lesson that I've had in my life is that I don't have to be the most educated on paper in the room if I am the hardest working. And you gave me so much confidence by instilling that in me too. And I love when people though just as a business owner or as a person recognize that everybody feels that way in the room, and instead of focusing on how uncomfortable you are, you turn to the next person and say, come with me and let's go in this room together. And you give, or you turn around and give somebody else an opportunity that maybe they're uncomfortable but you're going to pull them along anyways, because we all get better at the same time together. I also think you should post it on LinkedIn because I think we're all craving a little more vulnerability because we're all thinking that in our head and we think we're crazy and we're talking to ChatGPT and we're like, man, I have a robot therapist. I am crazy. But when
Yeah,
Justin Jones posts that vulnerable thought on LinkedIn, I'm like, I'm not alone. This is just a crazy thing we're doing and
I
we're
will
all doing
post
it
it.
together. You know, we're all figuring it out at the same
I'll
time.
post it. You can be, I actually have it.
I like it.
I've
I'll
got
support
the
it.
I wrote it out last night. I learned never to post. I like to schedule posts because I try to post every day. But sometimes what I write at the end of the night, by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm like, nope,
Not
nope,
that one.
nope. I don't know where I was at, but that ain't it today.
Not everything is for the internet. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
But I think we could all use a little bit more like sharing the story. The most inspiring stories to me and the most impactful are the ones where they get a little uncomfortable and they share things that normally the internet might judge them for. And chances are, I mean, I've had plenty of posts where people will comment horrible, awful things. And I just have to be okay with the fact that like 90% of the people are taking that home and it's helping them. And so it doesn't really matter if someone's judging me or whatever, because somebody else needed it, even if one person needed it. So I
It's
think
kind
you
of the
should.
way you have to look at it.
You slept on it. It's long enough. You should
I
post it.
did. I honestly, the only thing I was worried about is, does this look like I'm going through something? And it's really not. It's actually an everyday thing. And I think
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, you
but
are going through something. It's called entrepreneurship. It's
yeah,
crazy. We're all
yeah,
going through it together.
yeah. But without context, like I was like, this can read like a dude that's like really going through a midlife crisis. But I don't know if I always joke, I say, is it a midlife crisis or is it entrepreneurship? And I think they're probably, it
One and the
doesn't matter
same.
what it is, they're one and the same. I think the emotions would be the same regardless, but it's, feeling lost and found. And when you get your purpose and you're just figuring it out as you go, we all
Yeah.
are. So I
Yeah.
can't tell you, it's been like, first of all, so cool to be doing a podcast with you. And
So
I
thank
want to
you.
definitely share this out. And I cannot recommend enough for anybody that happens to see this episode. If you're running a business and you're struggling with finances, I give the highest regard to the Profitability Project. Joey Albertson and her team, they are like the shit. They're very good. They're very, very good at what they do. I sleep very well at night knowing exactly where we sit financially. And if I have a silly question, you guys have just been great to like help make sense of that stuff. So I thank you
Thank you.
so much for everything you've done for Sonic and for myself. And how do people find you if they
Yeah, a
want to
variety
learn
of
more?
ways. I mean, social media is great. I manage all our social media, so LinkedIn, Joey Albertson, anywhere else, the Profitability Project LLC. And then, you know, if usually social media is the best way to find me, we can connect. Typically, what I'll do is if you're interested in working with us, we'll just do a quick, virtual call with me and the owner and we'll talk about what you need and see if we're the right fit for you and we can get off to the races. So yeah, LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on social media, so you can always reach out anywhere that you have business social media. We're happy to connect.
And I'll be sure to tag you. Like we'll put this, and then I'll be sure to tag your site on YouTube and then your company page on LinkedIn. But guys, I can't recommend Joey enough. And for the price points that you guys come in and the value you provide, it's really just a no-brainer. So thank you so
Thank you.
much, Joey. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, and thank you for taking my advice and just showing that I do some kind of work that helps some kind of person. So
I think
love
far more
to
than
hear
you
your
realize. Far more than
feedback.
you realize. So
Good, good. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Okay. All right. Until next time, guys.